The morning everything changed. Sarah Chen's alarm didn't go off that Tuesday morning, but that wasn't what ruined her day. She woke at 6:47 a.m. to her 7-year-old daughter Maya shaking her shoulder. "Mommy, we're late." Sarah's heart dropped. She had exactly 13 minutes to get Maya ready, drop her at school, and make it across town to her data entry job at Morrison Industries. She'd already been late twice this month, once when Maya had a fever, once when the bus broke down. Her supervisor, Mrs. Patterson, had made it crystal clear. "One more time and you're done." Sarah threw on yesterday's blouse, grabbed 2 granola bars and rushed Maya out the door. They were going to make it. Barely, but they'd make it. Then she saw him. An elderly man lay crumpled on the sidewalk near the bus stop, his briefcase spilled open, papers scattering in the October wind. Blood trickled from a gash on his forehead. Morning commuters streamed past him like water around a stone, glancing, grimacing but never stopping. Sarah's feet stopped moving. Maya tugged her hand. "Mommy, we have to go." "I know, baby, I know." Sarah checked her phone. 7:03 a.m. She had 27 minutes. The man groaned, trying to push himself up with trembling arms. He looked about 70, wearing an expensive suit now covered in street grime. Sarah made a choice she knew she'd probably regret. "Sir? Sir, can you hear me?" She knelt beside him, her knee landing in a puddle. "Maya, sweetie, help me gather his papers, okay?" The man's eyes fluttered open, sharp, intelligent eyes despite the confusion clouding them. I fell. My medication. I got dizzy." "Don't try to move yet." Sarah pulled out her phone with shaking hands and dialed 911. As she gave the operator their location, she pressed her scarf gently against the bleeding cut. The man winced but nodded gratefully. "You don't have to stay," he whispered. "You look like you're in a hurry." Sarah glanced at her phone. 7:11 a.m. "It's okay. I'm exactly where I need to be." It was a lie, but it felt like the truth. The ambulance arrived 12 minutes later. By then, Sarah had retrieved all the man's scattered papers, called his daughter from his phone, and kept him calm and talking. He told her his name was Robert, that he'd been walking to clear his head before an important meeting, that he'd recently started new blood pressure medication. "You're an angel," Robert said as the paramedics loaded him onto the stretcher. "I didn't get your name." "Sarah Chen. Sarah Chen." He repeated it carefully like a promise. "Thank you." Sarah finally checked the time as the ambulance pulled away. 7:34 a.m. She was 19 minutes late, and that was before the bus ride. She closed her eyes and felt the sting of tears. She refused to let fall in front of Maya. "Is he going to be okay, Mommy?" "I think so, baby." "I really think so." They made it to Morrison Industries at 8:47 a.m., 47 minutes late. Sarah had barely logged into her computer when Mrs. Patterson appeared at her cubicle, lips pressed into a thin line. "My office, now." The conversation lasted less than 3 minutes. Mrs. Patterson didn't want to hear about the injured man or the ambulance or anything else. Rules were rules. Sarah was handed a termination letter and a box for her desk items. By 9:15 a.m., she was standing on the street with Maya, unemployed, with $247 in her checking account and rent due in 2 weeks. That night, after Maya fell asleep, Sarah let herself cry. She'd done the right thing. She knew that in her bones. But the right thing didn't pay bills. It didn't keep the lights on or put food on the table. She'd sacrificed their stability for a stranger, and now she had to figure out how to survive it. The next morning, Sarah dropped Maya at school and went straight to the unemployment office. Then she spent 6 hours applying to every job listing she could find, her laptop overheating on the public library table. By evening, her eyes burned and her hope was wearing thin. Her phone rang from an unknown number. "Is this Sarah Chen?" A woman's crisp voice. "Yes, this is she. I'm calling from Morrison Industries, from CEO Marcus Morrison's office. Mr. Morrison would like to meet with you tomorrow at 10 a.m. Will you be available?" Sarah's mouth went dry. The CEO? Marcus Morrison was a legend, a self-made billionaire who'd built Morrison Industries from a garage startup into a tech empire. Why would he want to meet with her? Yes, I'll be there. Sarah spent that evening trying on her 3 professional outfits, finally settling on her navy dress, the one she'd worn to Maya's school play. She couldn't imagine what the CEO wanted, but she needed this. Whatever it was, she needed it. The next morning, Sarah was escorted past her old floor, past the executive suites she'd only glimpsed from the elevator, to the top floor. The receptionist led her to double mahogany doors. "Mr. Morrison will see you now." Sarah stepped into an office that was more glass and light than walls. And behind the massive desk, rising to greet her with his hand extended, was Robert, the elderly man from the sidewalk. Except he wasn't just Robert. "Sarah Chen," Marcus Morrison said with a warm smile, a small bandage still visible on his forehead. "Thank you for coming." Sarah's mind reeled. You're Marcus Morrison." "I am, though I prefer Robert. It's my middle name. I use it when I want to move through the world without the weight of the name." He gestured to a chair. "Please sit. I have some things I'd like to discuss." Sarah sat, her hands gripping her purse like a life raft. "Sir, if this is about what happened, I didn't know who you were. I would have helped anyone." "I know, that's precisely why you're here." Marcus settled into his own chair, his eyes, those same sharp eyes, fixed on her. "Do you know how many people passed me on that sidewalk, Sarah? I counted 23 before you stopped. 23 people who saw a man bleeding on the ground and decided their morning coffee was more important. They were probably just running late like I was, and yet you stopped, even though you knew the consequences." He pulled out a folder from his desk. "I know you were fired. I know Mrs. Patterson dismissed you without listening to your explanation. I've since had a very enlightening conversation with her about the kind of culture we foster at Morrison Industries." Sarah's heart hammered. Is she in trouble because of me?" "Mrs. Patterson is on a performance improvement plan because of herself, because she demonstrated that she values rigid adherence to rules over human decency. That's not who we are." He leaned forward. "Sarah, I spent 2 hours researching you after I got home from the hospital. Your employee file shows perfect work quality, multiple commendations from clients, and 2 instances of tardiness, both with documented, valid reasons. You're a single mother, working full-time while taking online courses to finish your degree, and still you stopped to help a stranger." Tears burned in Sarah's eyes. "I just did what anyone should do." "But they didn't." "You did." Marcus opened the folder. "I'd like to offer you a position in our company. Not your old position. I think we can do better than that. How would you feel about joining our Community Impact Division? We've been looking for a program coordinator to oversee our charitable initiatives. It's a salaried position with full benefits, flexible hours for parents, and opportunities for growth." Sarah couldn't breathe, couldn't speak. The salary he mentioned was nearly double what she'd been making. "But I don't have experience in—" "You have exactly the experience that matters. You understand what it means to help people even when it costs you something. You understand compassion isn't convenient." He slid a paper across the desk. "This is an offer letter. Take it home, review it. Start whenever you're ready." Sarah's hands trembled as she picked up the letter. "Mr. Morrison, I don't know what to say. You said everything that mattered when you stopped on that sidewalk." He stood, and so did she. "The truth is, Sarah, I was having a crisis of conscience that morning. I'd just come from a board meeting where we'd voted to cut our community outreach budget to boost quarterly earnings. I was walking, trying to convince myself it was the right business decision. Then I fell, and I got to see exactly what kind of world we create when we prioritize profit over people." He walked to the window overlooking the city. "Do you know what I thought lying there on that sidewalk? I thought about how I'd spent 50 years building an empire, but had forgotten why it mattered. And then you appeared, this young woman who had every reason to keep walking, and you didn't. You reminded me what this is all supposed to be about." Sarah wiped her eyes, not caring about her makeup anymore. "I was so scared I'd made the wrong choice. The right choice is often the scary one." Marcus turned back to her with a gentle smile. "I've reinstated our community outreach budget and tripled it. I've also established a new company policy. Any employee who stops to help someone in a genuine emergency, will not face disciplinary action. We're calling it the Good Samaritan policy. We're going to make sure no one else has to choose between compassion and their job. That's incredible. That's you, Sarah. You changed the entire direction of a billion-dollar company by being human. He extended his hand. So what do you say? Will you help me make Morrison Industries a place that values people as much as profit? Sarah thought about Maya, about the example she'd set that morning, about how she'd teach her daughter that sometimes doing the right thing doesn't pay off immediately, but it always matters. Then she thought about the electric bill due next week, and she let herself laugh at the perfect timing of Grace. I say yes. Absolutely yes. 6 months later, Sarah stood in front of Morrison Industries' annual shareholders meeting, presenting the results of their new community initiatives. They'd established a fund to help employees facing financial emergencies. They'd partnered with local organizations to provide healthcare to the homeless. They'd created a program where employees could volunteer on company time. Maya sat in the front row, wearing her finest dress and a smile that could light up the city. After the presentation, as shareholders applauded, Marcus approached Sarah. You know what the best part is? Our stock price has gone up 14% since we implemented these changes. Turns out when you take care of people, they take care of business. Who would have thought? Sarah grinned. Someone wise once told me she was exactly where she needed to be, even when she was losing everything. I should have listened better the first time. Marcus chuckled. By the way, Mrs. Patterson requested a transfer to your department. She said she wants to learn how to lead with heart instead of just rules. Sarah raised her eyebrows. That's unexpected. People can change when given the chance. You taught me that. He nodded toward Maya. Your daughter must be proud. I think we're teaching each other, Sarah said. She told me last week that she wants to be like the lady who helps people even when it's hard. I told her she already is. As Sarah drove home that evening, Maya chattering about the presentation from the back seat, she thought about that October morning, about the choice that seemed to cost her everything but actually gave her everything that mattered. She'd stopped for a stranger and found her purpose. She'd sacrificed security and discovered that compassion creates its own safety net. She'd lost a job but gained a mission. And somewhere in the city, 23 other people who'd walked past an injured man that morning would never know what they'd missed. Not just the chance to help someone, but the chance to be transformed by their own humanity. Sarah had learned something that morning that would stay with her forever. The moments that ask the most from us often give the most back. Not always immediately, not always in ways we expect, but always in ways that matter. She looked in the rearview mirror at Maya, who was drawing a picture of a woman helping someone stand up. Mommy, Maya asked, if you could go back, would you still stop? Sarah didn't hesitate. Every single time, baby. Every single time.